It should be obvious that we cannot solve a crisis with the same methods that got us into it in the first place.
This is a last chance saloon. Because if we don't really take the decisions that are vital now, it's going to be almost impossible to catch up.
We will end the moratorium on extracting our huge reserves of shale, which could get gas flowing as soon as 6 months.
If unprecedented changes are not made and made soon, there will be irreversible damage to the planet.
Zero carbon.
East Talk. Hello and welcome to Zero Carbon Easter Series 4 Fool's Gold. I'm Ian Collins and this is the UK's #1 environment-based podcast. Do you know what, Dale? I think we should just crack straight in on this, don't you?
I'm ready.
Because, often we do these kind of very elaborate kind of intros and a little chuckle fest is had by all. And I'm just sensing the agenda today is so exciting, actually, for one particular reason, that we should waste no time.
All right, well, I'm in. There you go.
Dale Vince is in. That's what we like to hear. Yeah. This is being recorded, of course, on a late Thursday afternoon / evening. This is the day before you pitch up down in the capital at the Just Stop Oil protests. In fact, they're not really Just Stop Oil, are they? They're everything.
It's everything, and it's Extinction Rebellion, Animal Rising, Insulate Britain. It's the whole crew.
All those people that some people hate.
Yes.
I mention that because naturally, and we're going to be speaking on the radio about this tomorrow as well. I know you're coming on live from Parliament Square. But what's interesting is that the response, and this goes down to the art of good protest, doesn't it? The response is very mixed because people understand a protest, but they don't understand having their M25 closed.
Or the snooker had interrupted, right?
Oh, the snooker, that was the one, wasn't it? Yeah, by a bloke with a bag of powder.
Paint dust, yeah, something like that. I've had a whole week, actually, of defending the right to protest and disrupt and Just Stop Oil in particular, and that protest in particular against those people you mentioned, the some people that like to hate these people that are doing such a great job of creating headlines and just not accepting the status quo. I've been on right-wing TV and radio listening to all the crazy stuff that they say. I mean, there's some real crazy stuff. I'll tell you now, I'll tell you later. I don't mind.
No, tell me now. Yeah. What's the crazy stuff?
Well, Julia Hartley-Brewer, right? I mean, I love chatting to her, but she went on some kind of rant and said that eco-protesters want to take us all back to the dark ages and they want to ban the wheel. I'm like, WTF? And she asked me at one point, if the planet was about to die, should she get hysterical? I said, I think you've got enough hysteria this morning with the dark ages and banning the wheel, right? Have you heard of an electric car, right? Oh, my word.
Come on, Dale, fess up now. Tell us about your wheel banning activities. Where do these secret meetings take place? Where are they? Are they in your office there? Are they somewhere else? Do you all meet in a little cave in another part of the country so that we can see you kicking up your anti-wheel plans?
I mean, it's mad, isn't it? I said to you, you've heard of electric cars, right? Because that's what we want, electric transport, the ending of fossil fuels, that kind of stuff. But no, it was all back to the dark ages, apparently. And we want children to mine cobalt in Africa. And she talked about incredibly rare materials. And it all has to come on a boat from China. Like, that's the end of the world as well. I mean, honestly, it's so removed from reality.
When we talk tomorrow on TV, Dale, can my first question be, are you planning to ban the wheel? Can I throw that in there? Is that all right? So we'll start off something like that. But I suppose with things like the Grand National, we can argue about the Grand National. That was an interesting one because lots of people we spoke to, so people who ordinarily would be, you might think quite traditional and conventional, they like an institution, are very much against the Grand National, but that was more of an animal cruelty issue, whereas the protests there were kind of a mixture, weren't they? They were about animals, but they were also about drawing a wider attention to other things within the system.
Yeah, you mean the snooker? Yeah, I mean, it was a climate thing, wasn't it? Just stop oil. We have to stop drilling for that. I mean, that's a simple fact. We know that. Even Shell, actually, the latest projections from Shell say that if we're going to get to 1.5 degrees, stick to 1.5 degree temperature rise, then we have to stop expansion of oil and gas now, right now, not at some point in the future. This is a report they released just this week. I mean, it's just madness what our government are doing. And you can understand why people are frustrated. And this is what I've been saying all week. Millions of people can't believe what our government are doing in the teeth of a climate crisis, opening coal mines, drilling for oil and gas, expanding runways, and a 26 billion road building program, all of it pulling us exactly in the wrong direction. And so, why should we be surprised when people take to the streets?
What about, is there a problem, do you think, sometimes when, I don't know, somebody somebody like yourself who's a great communicator, a good talker, you know your turf, you know your territory. So when people book you to go on television and radio, whether it's the BBC, Independent, whatever it happens to be, you're going to get a qualified answer. But often that's not the case. And somebody comes on talking about Armageddon and straight away they're countered by lots of reasons. Like, for example, don't worry, the world is definitely not going to end.
Yeah, lots of crazy shit as well. I mean, like Julia, to go back to yesterday, one of the things she threw at me was, look, we need coal, right? We need coal to make steel. And I said, that isn't true either, right? We're making steel now with hydrogen. That's happening in Europe. And immediately, with no knowledge of the subject, obviously, she comes back and says, yes, but not at the scale we need it. I mean, what a silly thing to say. It's happening in a steel factory. It's not happening in a lab. Do you know what I mean? But she has no knowledge and she doesn't care. She doesn't care. It's pure prejudice is what we get from these people. And, we have to challenge that. We have to correct their facts because they've very much got the wrong facts.
There's a lot of people mouthing at me through the glass here, Dale. I can lip read. They're saying, are you speaking to the man that wants to uninvent the wheel? Yes, I am. For those. There's a big fan base building up. The anti-wheelites have arrived here as well, Dale.
I could go down in history for that. An uninvention, right? An uninvention. Whoever did that?
Yeah, the first man to be on Wikipedia in 300 years' time. Mostly known for uninventing the wheel. That's like, is there such a thing? Let's talk about TikTok because they're removing climate change denial content. What are you making of this? I'm sure this is a good news story.
Yeah, it's a brilliant move. Brilliant, because a lot of this stuff festers online, right? People are finding this kind of content, like the Julia Hartley Brewer stuff. They conspiracy theories and their fears and their misinformation about the climate. They start online. So to have TikTok, and I think YouTube may have already done this, and other platforms, you take action against it and actually direct climate change inquiries to UN websites and stuff, authoritative sources of information. Just brilliant.
That's all you want, isn't it? And that's, social media company. It's interesting as well, isn't it? That, TikTok are owned by the Chinese, who are always told is the absolute arch enemy of everything. And they're the ones slightly ahead of the game on this. They're also actually slightly more considerate when it comes to issues of bullying and other sorts of harassment. And it's not perfect. No one's saying it is, but they're better than quite a lot of their competitors.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Shall we talk volcanoes, Dale?
Brilliant story out this week. Some scientists have identified an ancient bug deep in a volcano that has got this wonderful habit and ability of eating vast amounts of CO2, vast compared to its body size anyway, I'm guessing, rather than, in context of what we need to remove. But it offers hope of a way to engineer bugs to do a big part of the job that we need to do. Because once we get to net zero, that's not enough. We know there's too much carbon in the atmosphere. So once we stop pumping it out, we've then got to start pulling back in what we've released in the last 200 years to get back to a stable temperature and stable climate. So that's a job for the future right now, but scientists are working on it.
What is the hope, do you think? Bearing in mind there's something that comes up, you just touched on it there, getting to net zero and the like, that's only part and parcel of the gig, part of the deal. Is there any country that's doing really well?
I'm going to say Europe is doing better than most. I think, ironically for me, the IRA in the USA is a brilliant move. That's the Inflation Reduction Act. I don't know why they call it that, because it's all about actually green economy. Is that the
best PR they could come up with? That's not the best, is it, really, for marketing?
It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. They must have forgot about Ireland, even though Biden was there this week.
I was going to say, yes.
But that's brilliant. Brilliant piece of legislation. Europe are reacting with their own version of that because it's all about attracting inward investment, keeping your companies, in your country, so they don't go to the US or somewhere else for like better tax breaks and that kind of stuff. Britain, obviously, we're behind the curve. We're not part of Europe anymore, just doing our own thing, and really that ain't much of all, really. But that's the way it is.
The official line. It ain't much of all. There it is. This comes in from Patrick. Back to that issue of protests. He says, what happens when protesters interrupt a Forest Green Rovers match?
I think it's one of those reflex questions that people ask. I'm asked it all of the time by, pundits on radio and TV. Well, how would you feel if it happened to you? Looking for hypocrisy. But, my stance is, well, first off, I'm not really sure why anybody would want to disrupt a football game at a football club that is the greenest on the planet, that is already running at net zero carbon emissions. I mean, Why would you do that? But if they did want to do that, I'd be okay with it because it's putting out a message, and it's an important message.
Somebody texted us the other day and said, what happened when it was just good old-fashioned streakers who would interrupt? You wouldn't get anyone jumping on tables with powder or gluing themselves to a fence. People just got their kit out and ran across a pitch or a track.
Yeah. They don't show them anymore, do they? If somebody invades the pitch with clothes on or not, they just ignore them.
Yeah, something happens at a football match and then you watch it on the TV that evening and you don't see it. You go, hang on, I was there. What happened? And of course, I think it's an FA agreement, isn't it? But there was a defined era of people just whipping out their bits and pieces.
There was even a song about it, wasn't there? There was a pop song.
Oh, The Streak.
Streakers. Yeah, The Streak, yeah.
That's right, The Streak.
Well, yes, they call him The Streak. Look at that, fastest thing on 2 feet. Look at that, he's just as proud as he can be. His anatomy, he gonna give us a peek.
That's an international hit, damn it. We could bring it back, but I'm not singing it, and I'm certainly not going to be in the video. Climate change thaws the world's most northern research station. There's a thumping irony, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's just one of those depressing climate stories. You know, the temperature at the North Pole is rising 7 times faster than the global average, you know, which is a bit shocking. And, you know, it's going to cause massive problems. But look, this is the stuff that we know is going to happen. And all this is news about it actually happening. And yeah, it's just a bit depressing. But will it be a wake-up call? No, it's just probably just another story that the people on the right wing of life can dismiss and say it's just the weather or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
The weather's always changed, Dale.
It has. It has.
That's why it's called the weather. Go and uninvent something, for God's sake. That's the new mantra, I think.
I want to uninvent stupidity. That's what I want to do.
That's what we need to concentrate on. And there's a lot of that out there at the moment. But we have got this.
Hi, I'm Mike Graham from Talk TV, and I've been asked to tell you about green issues and a new book called Manifesto. It's brilliant, apparently. Do you believe in climate change? I don't. Do you believe we all need to find a greener way of living our lives? No, I don't either. I think it's all a load of guff perpetuated by loony lefties and eco-zealots hell-bent on causing a nuisance. Do you believe we're all killing our beautiful planet? No. Neither do I, but I know a fellow who does. His name's Dale Vince. He's so convinced he's written a whole book about it called Manifesto. The Battle for Green Britain. It's part memoir, part handbook for changing the world and shaking it up, apparently. I won't be buying it, but you can if you want to waste your hard-earned cash. It's $4.99. Pretty cheap, isn't it? You must be wealthy as hell. According to this script, it's available now from fgr.co.uk/shop.
It became, of course, a #1 bestseller, though.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that was before Mike's ad, so before he claims the credit for that, because next time I speak to him, he's bound to give that a go.
Yeah, I think he's already claiming the credit.
Is he?
Yeah, because he told me, he said, I noticed Dale Vince's book was #1. And he said, it's interesting that I just recorded that ad. And then I thought, well, I'm not sure we've even played the ad yet, but I didn't have the heart to tell him. But he was, yeah, it's a good ad.
I loved it. Last time I was on the show, he said to me, we made you, and now you never come and speak to us anymore. I was like, yeah, okay.
Brilliant. That is brilliant. And of course, it is still available at the Forest Green Rover shop at a discounted price as well.
Yeah, still going. We did send a copy to every MP and peer in the Commons and the Lords, just to say, look, you need to read this, guys. Actually, you know, not my life story per se, but the the manifesto bit, the blueprint for how we get to a green Britain. You know, I got a shed load of responses actually, mostly from the House of Lords. So you got to wonder if maybe they're the guys with more time on their hands. But I got a lot of responses from bishops and lords and all kinds of people, and I would say a good handful from the House of Commons. Just little things saying, look, thanks for the book. I'm going to read it.
Do you know what? When I used to cover stuff at the House of Commons, the House of Lords was where you got the best debate. Whether they were Tories, Labour, Lib, whoever they were, you just got good debate. You know, there was no trying to kind of catch someone out with a crafty, smart answer. There was none of that personal stuff, just really good debate. And I thought that's the stuff they should be showing.
Yeah, that's where the decision should be made, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was because I think these guys get to a stage, the ones that have been previously MPs, where they're trying to sort of toe a party line and they're thinking maybe about their careers. And you get in the House of Lords, you don't give a shit about that. You know, you're there. So it's almost where you develop your seriousness as a politician, and you need to be a bit serious to be a politician because we're dealing with serious issues like, the end of civilization as we know it.
Yes.
And uninventing the wheel, that's bound to be a debate in the coming weeks.
And stupidity, right? We have to create a drug to uninvent or suppress stupidity.
I can't wait for that. And as if that wasn't enough, we've also got this. That is the trombone of plenty, which, as it shall now be known, highlighting, of course, that you're not just in print and published and on radio and the biggest environmental podcast on the planet. Not just that, but also on the telly as well, though.
Yeah, I'm like a presenter now. But just for this one series of 3 parts, right?
Blue Peter beckons, I sense.
Yeah, second part's out this week. I still haven't watched it, but I will get round to it. But, I kind of, well, I know, actually, I don't know what's in it because they do some amazing things with the editing, actually, to make a really tight program from a whole bunch of footage.
Martin on LinkedIn says, Dale, are you really launching an airline? Mike Graham and Nigel Farage could be on the first flight with you.
I don't know what to say there. I'm just biting my tongue now. But yes, the answer is yes, that's going to happen. We haven't chosen a launch date yet, for the kind of announcement. I keep saying it everywhere. It's not like a best kept secret, but it's coming. And, I think we'll be in the air with zero carbon planes in less than 2 years' time.
Wow. And that's what's needed, because I was looking at this story from Australia. You said 50% hike in airfares to fly to Europe from Australia. So it's clearly, it's having a dent.
I love that story, actually, for a number of reasons. I mean, the people with the highest per capita carbon footprint on the planet are the Aussies, right? And until
they love tearing shit up, don't they? They love it. It's just like is it taught in nurseries at school?
The climate crisis.
I know. Up the planet. Is that do they tell 4-year-olds, here's what you got to do, boys and girls, right? Very, very simple. If you can piss on flowers and chop down trees, then you'll go further in life. Is that what happens? What's going on there?
And they had some legendary policies, didn't they, to get to net zero by, I don't know, 2200 or something. I don't know, something stupid. But they had an election recently, and they've got a much better government, a much more progressive government. But here's a story where they're paying 50% more to fly to Europe. I think that's a good thing, right? Flying's too cheap. But it turns out the reason it's happening is the airlines are overbooked. And so they're charging very high prices to try and recoup some of the losses they made during the pandemic when people weren't flying. It's a kind of, it's a market problem rather than flying just having become more expensive, as it really should do.
Let's talk about Greggs here. Greggs, on any other day of the week, a couple of years back, would have been the arch enemy of somebody like yourself. They sell sausage rolls and pasties. There's a lot of meat-based fodder going on in the Greggs empire. That's what they do. And then they brought out the vegan sausage roll. And I wouldn't say single-handedly, but I think they've massively changed the conversation about vegan food.
Oh, I think they have, and massively, I think is fair. I mean, they were part of that tsunami of vegan products that we've seen in the last, I would say, 2, maximum 3 years, where everybody is introducing vegan versions of everything, whether it's supermarkets, motorway service stations, cafes, it's just everywhere, which is incredible. And Greggs, they put out a sausage roll probably because they kept getting asked for it, but the feedback they got, I mean, what I mean by that is the sales they got from that kind of commercial feedback was so strong that they've just gone and doubled and trebled and quadrupled down. I think it's incredible. And I'm reminded, you're right, Greggs used to have been the arch enemy. And if you go back enough years, one of our strikers at Forest Green Rovers was photographed by a local journalist coming out of a Greggs, and it was like the biggest scandal in Stroud ever. Player from a vegan football club pictured coming out of Greggs. It was so funny.
Nobody would say that now. They wouldn't be able to say that because you wouldn't know what somebody had bought in Greggs. And when the vegan sausage roll, I know there's lots of other products and tasty alternatives out there, but having eaten a Greggs sausage roll and then eaten a vegan sausage roll, nobody is going to tell me that the difference, if that's what somebody is looking for, is so huge. Nobody would be able to pick that out in a taste test.
No, you've got some pink salty paste in a greasy pastry wrap, haven't you? I mean, nobody's going to tell the difference.
Yeah, which tells you a lot about what's really in meat or isn't really in
right.
meat, as the case may be. And here's one that you referenced this earlier about Shell talking about an end to fossil fuel expansion, Dale. I mean, these are the people you want to hear talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. I mean, enough people around the world have said we have to stop exploring for new fossil fuels. Even the IEA, the International Energy Association, have said it. Obviously, protest groups say it, environmentalists. The UN Pretty sure they say it. But to hear it from a major oil company, I think that's something. And they haven't actually called for it or said they're going to do it. What they've got is a bunch of scenario plans from here till doomsday. And it's just a question of, when doomsday comes is dependent on when we stop, producing more fossil fuels. And they're saying to get to 1.5 degrees, actually, we have to stop right now. And that's very interesting.
But it's more than interesting, I think. It's up there kind of, not dissimilar to the Greg's story in some respects. If somebody had said to you 10 years ago that this would be a line that Shell would go anywhere near, you'd have just laughed them out the room. It wouldn't have even been a thing. But this is a conversation that organisations like Shell are now clearly involved in and no longer, it seems, in denial.
Yeah, it would appear that, wouldn't it? And maybe they are in some kind of glacial transition from, what they've been doing to what they need to do.
They've worked out there's more money in uninventing wheels than...
They need to uninvent oil now, right?
That's right. That's the next thing. Final question from Jamie, who says, Dale, would love to hear your learnings from a year in League One. How do we get back quicker, says Jamie.
Well, look, League One is these are obvious things. Higher standard of football, played at a faster pace. There's more one-touch football, less dithering, and mistakes cost you more. I would say we've learned that in League One. Ourselves, we had a bad start to the season with both our head coach and our director of football being tapped up by other clubs while they were recruiting for us. And as a result, our recruitment wasn't good enough. We started with our strikers from League Two were both injured. We started with less firepower up front than we had in League Two. That wasn't a good start. Then we had a string of injuries, the like of which we've never had before. And, we stumbled through to January, only 3 points adrift, tried to change too much, I would say. Big recruitment, changed manager as well. And it didn't work out for us. How do we get back? We are busy now looking to recruit a League One team, even though we'll be in League Two, because we want to get back as soon as we can without being desperate. But when we do get back, to be on a very stable footing, more stable than last time.
Great answer. We can't wait. Dale, that is it. We'll speak on the radio and television tomorrow, and we'll speak on this next week.
Nice one. I'll see you there, Ian.
Don't forget, of course, to follow this podcast from your podcast provider so that you get each new episode automatically. Leave a review there too. Really important bit, follow Dale on social media, twitter.com/DaleVince, facebook.com/DaleVince, on Insta and TikTok too.
Zero carbon
East of.